We're doing something right because the recovery community is growing.
A valuable web resource against addiction, this week on Mid-Ohio Valley Now. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Mid-Ohio Valley Now. I'm your host, Eric Little. Thank you for joining us once again this week, and thanks for making us a part of your weekend routine. This week on Mid-Ohio Valley Now, we're talking about the fight against opioid addiction. Brandy Beaver is the Opioid Resource Navigator for Buckeye Hills Regional Council, and she's here to tell us about a website called myrecoverylink.org that connects people looking for resources to the resources they're trying to find. Brandy, welcome to the program this week.
Thanks.
What does addiction look like, and how many people are battling addiction around us every day?
Yeah, addiction is invisible to some. I mean, you look at somebody and sometimes it might be obvious that they're having problems, but there are people walking around that look completely normal to you that they're hiding addictions.
Yeah. For those that aren't aware or haven't thought about this in a while, how big is the problem in Ohio?
It's a lot bigger than some think. It's everywhere, and sadly it affects everyone. It doesn't discriminate between incomes or anything like that. It's everywhere.
No wealth level makes you immune to it. No. Are there populations, maybe ethnically, racially, male, female, that are struggling worse, or age groups even?
Honestly, I've been surrounded by so much addiction, I can't even say that I would pick just one category because, like I said, it's everywhere. So
whether you've had your head in the sand or not, that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah.
How long has myrecoverylink.org been around, and what was its purpose?
My Recovery Link has been around for approximately a year starting. I took this position in September, so about 6 months ago. I've been doing this role, and that's when we've really picked up and loaded it with all of this resource information, changed the layout of the site to make it easier to navigate for people looking for help.
So basically, as you said, it's a website, and there are links there. Let's get into it. How does it work? What kind of stuff can you find there?
So the website is laid out into 3 separate categories. When you first go to our website, if you're looking for a hotline immediately and don't want to have to cipher through everything, there is a link right there on our homepage that you can click to be taken directly to our hotlines. The first page is a resource directory, and it is based off of some of the general resources somebody might be looking for: housing and shelter, food, legal services, employment, etc. There's also a category for some self-help links that you can go to if you're not ready to really reach out and get help from an entity. You could do it on your own and go to some of these sites. And then there's also a category for hotlines, and that covers a wide variety of different types of services you might need. Then we have our group meetings page, and on that you can select what county you're from. We cover 4 counties: Washington, Morgan, Monroe, and Noble counties throughout our entire site. And if you go to the group meetings, you can select the day and the type of meeting that you're looking for, and a list will come up. That's actually my favorite part. I really like how easy it is to navigate and find something right there when you need it. And then our third page is facilities, and they're broken up into detox facilities, residential treatment, outpatient treatment, and transitional housing.
So it's built for people that both have the time for a deep dive into some of these things, but also built for people that might not. They go there and they need help now.
Sometimes when you're in crisis, time matters.
Yeah.
And the longer it takes, the more somebody might be deterred.
Or if you're having some active medical issues and need some help, you may not have the time to really dig.
Yeah, so we really wanted to make it as easy to navigate and the least overwhelming as possible. Mental health, if I'm stressed, the last thing I want to do is have to cipher through 500 resources to find the one that I'm looking for, because by that time I might have just given up.
And it's designed with that in mind.
Yes.
What kind of input did the recovery community have? I know you've had some discussion with the recovery community about putting this together. How were they helpful?
Yes, so the site is focused on the opioid epidemic, but addiction in general, just it can apply to anyone, and these resources can apply to anyone, but our main focus is the recovery community. So we held a focus group And they were either people that were in recovery, seeking recovery, working in recovery, or have a friend or family member that was in need of recovery. And we had people navigate the site and provide their feedback, and we made what changes we were able to make to try to make it, what's that word?
User-friendly?
Yeah.
So it's a user-friendly site, and it's one that offers help if you're battling any kind of addiction. It can be drug addiction.
I hope I explained this properly. When you're in addiction or not in addiction, you need resources. So even if you're not an addict, you can still go to our resource directory and find information that you're looking for. That's why we made the group meetings page and the facilities page kind of separate also. But yeah, the resource directory, it lists all the available resources. It doesn't matter if you're an addict or not.
Mm-hmm.
So
how has the recovery community led the way in the fight against addiction? Because they've been a very active part of this the whole way.
It's really like a whole nother world. I love it. Everyone is so welcoming and so friendly, and everyone is just motivated to create change. It's like a huge family that just comes together to try to make the world a better place and spread awareness and help where they can. So it's been really nice.
In just a moment, we'll return to our conversation with Brandy Beaver, the Opioid Resource Navigator at Buckeye Hills Regional Council. But first, this break. You're listening to Mid-Ohio Valley Now. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Valley Now. Again, I'm your host, Eric Little. Thank you for joining us this week. Let's rejoin our conversation with Brandy Beaver, the Opioid Resource Navigator at Buckeye Hills Regional Council, as we talk about myrecoverylink.org. You mentioned the areas this website covers. What are the 4 counties in Ohio again?
Washington County, Morgan County, Monroe County, and Noble County.
If you live outside those counties, can you find help through these links, or can the people that are here, if you make a phone call, can they direct you where you need to go?
Some of the resources are listed outside of those counties because we wanted to make it to not only be services within those counties, but places that would serve those counties. So just because you're from Noble County, if Parkersburg has a facility or a resource that we think might be beneficial to put on our site, as long as they serve Noble County, they're on there. Unfortunately, some of these counties are so small that they do go outwards to get help, so we kept that in mind as well.
And unfortunately, the problem doesn't stop at the river.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So we have resources from Parkersburg and all over, but our main focus is those 4 counties.
What is the current status of the recovery resources? What's the recovery community saying as far as number of beds, meetings, counseling? Is it better than it was, but not quite where it needs to be? What are you hearing?
Honestly, I think that it's getting a little bit better. There's still a need. Don't get me wrong. There's still a huge need for facilities and services and stuff like that. But as awareness grows, it's getting a little bit easier to make some of these possible. I know that we just had another facility open up locally.
Because some of them are very niche. Some of them will only take men. Some of them will only take women. And then what happens if you have kids? Kids aren't always welcome at some of these.
Right. And so on My Recovery Link, it will, if you're looking for a facility or a type of service, there is a section right underneath the name of the resource, and it has a description on availability and what they take and things like that. So if you're a pregnant woman or you have kids under residential, you can look, and then under the descriptions of each resource, it'll say whether or not any information that these resources give me, I put on the website.
How helpful has this website been at connecting people with resources? Are you hearing success stories?
I'm actually hearing quite a bit. I know case managers that use My Recovery Link when they have someone come into their office and they're looking for something. They'll just go to the resource directory online and are able to provide them with the information that they need. So it's really cool to hear that it's not just people struggling. It's other people are, using it in order to help people also. So it's pretty cool.
Well, you mentioned something about that earlier. Making these resources easier to access will make people more likely to use them. That's not just because we like convenience in 2021. There are statistics to back that up, that the quicker and easier you get people resources, the more likely they are to take those. And if you are meeting with a case manager, having that right in front of them, I would imagine, is a tremendous tool when the person that they're working with is right there in front of them.
I mean, there is an urgency. If somebody decides, right now, I'm ready, I want to stop, I want to get help right now, but then they have to wait even a day or two, everything could flip-flop. Yeah, just that fast. So there is that urgency. So we want to make sure that we provide as much information as possible so that way they don't have to wait.
Unfortunately, we know the opioid epidemic didn't go away when the pandemic came on. How difficult has it been to keep the site current during COVID? Because there have been so many meetings that haven't happened or have been moved virtually and stuff like that.
I have added like a little bar at the top of our pages reminding people that due to the COVID, that their dates and times may have changed, and if there's a phone number available under that resource, to make sure you call ahead just to make sure that it's accurate. A lot of the ones on the resource directory, I verified, I'd say at least 98% of them, and if I couldn't verify by speaking with them on the phone, I was able to verify through their website. So I can say that the resource directory is as up to date as I could possibly make it right now, but the group meetings page, there's really not a contact. So I think word of mouth is still pretty important.
And again, if you run one of these meetings or if you run one of these resources and your situation has changed because of COVID, get a hold of Brandy. How can people get a hold of you?
There's a section on My Recovery Link that will go directly towards or to me. So you just go to contact, type in your information, and it'll be emailed directly to me. At the bottom of the website is my email as well. And on that contact form, if you don't want to fill out a resource thing, you can just my email address. So.
Yeah, you're probably more than willing to take emails from people and make updates where it's needed.
Yeah.
How has COVID worsened the area's opioid issues?
That's something that it kind of is like flip-flop. There is a lot more drug use, and then, of course, with people losing their jobs, mental health, being quarantined, mental health goes downhill, and then that causes relapse or higher use, and then these economic impact payments are...
The good of the stimulus payments is that people can make bills that might need to make bills and pay rent. But the bad is that there are a couple people out there who will use those and do some things that they shouldn't do with those.
Yeah, and it's really hard to understand all of that if you've never been in addiction. But sadly, it's our reality, and all we can do is try to create as much change as possible and provide as much help as we possibly can. Yeah. But it ultimately is up to the person. A lot of people probably wouldn't think about the unintended consequences that come along with the economic stimulus payment. It's hard. It's affected. I mean, it affects me. It affects everyone. But I'm so proud of the recovery community because we do see it. So we do try to step up and do what we can. Thanks to My Recovery Link, we also formed a new team outside of Buckeye Hills, but it was My Recovery Link inspired. And, we have a great group of volunteers that go around and also provide resource information just door to door in the communities. And it all started with just wanting to get the word out on My Recovery Link and providing these resources to people, because we do see that things are not getting any better with COVID and how it's affecting people's mental health and addiction. So we're actively involved as much as we can be. In just a moment, we'll wrap things up with Brandy Beaver, the Opioid Resource Navigator from Buckeye Hills Regional Council. But first, this break. You're listening to Mid-Ohio Valley Now. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Valley Now. I'm your host, Eric Little. Thanks for listening again this morning. Let's rejoin our conversation about myrecoverylink.org with Brandy Beaver, the Opioid Resource Navigator at Buckeye Hills Regional Council. Let's talk about My Recovery Link as far as how it's funded. Is it grant funded? It is grant funded. It's an opioid grant, which is why our main focus is the opioid. But one addiction is not really different than the other when it comes to the needs and recovery and stuff like that. So even though it is geared towards opioids, it applies to everyone.
How long will the grant run?
We just got a grant extension for another year.
Well, congratulations.
So, yes, that was exciting news. It was only supposed to be through the end of this month, but we just found out the other day that it did get approved for an entire year, so I'll be around.
All right, that's good to hear. Why is it important to continue supporting programs and funding programs and resources that are leading to positive change?
Well, with my recovery link, for instance, one of the things that makes me so passionate about this is when I first started working in this field, I was amazed at the amount of resources available to help people that nobody knew about.
Right.
So one of the things that really kind of gets me is if you're in town and you're central to town, you know that these resources are available and you know the services that you need to go to get help. But when you've got people that are in, what would you call them, rural townships and stuff like that, that aren't or that don't have access to the bigger cities that are central with all of this, they might not even know that they exist. But a lot of people have internet. Most people have internet or access to it somehow. So even if they don't have a way to get to town or a way to call a resource or something like that, maybe they can at least get online and see that there is help available. It was just crazy because there's so much help out there. So much.
And again, if it saves one life, then really it's kind of worth any money you'd spend. It's one of those things that's hard to measure the success in dollars and cents because it is saving somebody. You have to think it's saved at least one person.
And the thing is somebody might not just come right out and say, yeah, I need help, or yeah, this helped me. But I don't doubt that this hasn't helped in some way. Right. We've had pretty good numbers on the site. We do track our statistics and stuff like that. And we've had really good page views and stuff like that. Our Facebook page, we also have a Facebook page, and that we're using not only to promote my recovery link, but also to post about events and stuff that you can't really put on the website.
Right.
So, there might be a function coming up that might be beneficial or a class or something. So we'll post that information on our Facebook page.
Glad you mentioned the thing about page views. Is that really what you look to decide how successful this is? What's getting clicked on? How many people are navigating through each different page? What do you guys look at to figure out whether or not this is effective the way you're delivering it?
Personally, I do, because I am in charge of maintaining the site and making sure. I get on there every few days just to select or just to look and see how well the page is doing and if there's anything else that I can do to change it to make it easier. But it's been pretty steady, which is good because, for a while there was no page views, and now we've got a pretty steady number of page views.
So again, there's a Facebook page, which is myrecoverylink.org. You can find them online, of course, so you can find them on Facebook. And the site will continue to exist for at least one more year. If there are people out there that have resources to offer, but they're not on that website, how can they get in touch with you to make that happen?
Go to the website and go to the contact form, and it will ask you for your email address, your name, the resource that you're wanting to provide information on, and then any type of description that you want to provide. And if you have a resource on the site that's not to your liking, the description, or if your number changed or you moved,
your meeting date changed,
email me and I will get it changed.
This area has done a lot to support the recovery movement and recovery initiative. Why is it important that we still continue to do so?
I think the more awareness that we spread and the more that people see that it is all around us, maybe it would help reduce the stigma. And I can't say that stigma is all to blame, but it's a pretty big portion of why some people struggle with reaching out for help because of that discrimination. So I think that the more awareness that we spread and the more that we're in your face, people will feel more accepted. I've never felt more accepted than in this position.
Kind of goes hand in hand. People that aren't willing to admit there's a problem, and then that feeding into the stigma that exists as far as people getting help, and then that leads to, well, there's no problem.
And that's what's heartbreaking because it does not discriminate. There are people with high-paying jobs that suffer. There are people that are at the lowest of the low suffering. There are their sons, daughters, aunts, uncles, grandparents even. I mean, it's everywhere, and it does not discriminate. And the fact that some people think that it it does is what we want to change. We want to change that stigma, and we just hope that this is just one way of doing that.
Is that the biggest thing people need to know, is that it doesn't discriminate?
It doesn't.
What will it take for this area to keep winning the fight against opioids? Because it's hard to spike the football and say we've accomplished a great victory, but this area, unlike a lot of other places, is continuing to fight.
Once again, with the stigma is stop looking at a person that is struggling with addiction as a problem or a nuisance, and look at it as somebody struggling with inner demons, and they need help, and treat them with compassion. If you're approaching somebody with that attitude that they're not as good as you, they're going to feel that. But if you approach them with compassion and they know that you're really looking out for their best interests, they'll be more likely to accept help. And it might take time to build a relationship and grow, but it's just be compassionate and try to understand that just because you see somebody looking somewhat okay on the outside doesn't mean that they're not suffering on the inside. You never know what a person's going through. It's
really a battle we have to fight household to household.
It is.
Look out for everybody in your family, all your loved ones, and make sure that there's not an issue that's being hidden.
I mean, we're doing something right because the recovery community is growing. Yeah. So there's obviously something that we're doing right, and I don't know if it's one program over another or if it's just all of us in a whole. But there is something good coming from this, and the more that you see it grow, the more it motivates you to keep going.
One of those good things is definitely myrecoverylink.org. Brandy Beavers, the Opioid Resource Navigator with Buckeye Hills Regional Council. Again, you can find them on Facebook at myrecoverylink.org and online at myrecoverylink.org. It doesn't hurt to keep saying the site as many times and beat it into people's heads, so I'll do it one more time. myrecoverylink.org. Brandy, thank you for the information. Thank you for joining. Good luck as you continue, and congratulations on getting the grant for another year, and keep doing the good things you're doing.
Thanks.
That's our guest, Brandy Beaver, the Opioid Resource Navigator with Buckeye Hills Regional Council, as we've been talking about myrecoverylink.org. Switching gears, let's take a look at our Attorney General's Consumer Minute with Attorney General Patrick Morrissey. Shopping for big-ticket items on sites such as Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace is more popular than ever. It's also more popular than ever with scammers who sometimes sell items that don't even exist. Here to tell us how to have a safe online shopping experience for those big-ticket items is Attorney General Patrick Morrissey.
If you're buying a big-ticket item, maybe an automobile, it may actually be purchasing a puppy from another state, something that costs a lot of money, make sure that the product you're buying is authentic. You have to get proof that you're buying the actual product. We've heard of scams where people are pretending to sell you a car that's very different than what you ultimately purchase. You have to get all the data and make sure that you can physically see it. Make sure that when you obtain the item that it's legitimate and you're not going to get ripped off.
Speaking of Facebook, the Attorney General also had some tips for how to stay safe on social media. Most of us on social media are there to connect with others, but scammers are there as well. How to protect ourselves from them? Here to tell us more, once again, Patrick Morrissey.
Many people today are out on the internet. They may be on Facebook, Twitter, or all the different types of social media out there. Most important thing to do, have strong privacy protections. You'll see that over the course of time, there will be people asking to be your friend. They'll start out with some innocuous comments, and then they'll build it up, and then they'll say, well, do you have this information? Would you give your personal identifiable information? They may ask for your birthday. They may ask for your phone number. Whatever you do, make sure you know the people you're dealing with on the internet and through social media. You have to have that trusting relationship before you share anything. Identity theft is a very serious problem, and people are using the tools of the internet, Twitter, Facebook, to really defraud you out of a lot of money. Protect yourself.
That's Attorney General Patrick Morrissey with our Consumer Protection Minute. This week talking about scams related to big-ticket items and buying them online, and scams related to social media. Well, that's our show. I'd like to thank our guest, Brandy Beaver, the Opioid Resource Navigator of Buckeye Hills Regional Council. I want to thank you for listening as well. If you have comments or feedback, please send those to our station's Facebook page as a direct message, or you can email us with news tips and story ideas at news@sevenrangesradio.com. Thanks again for listening this week. I'm your host, Eric Little. We'll talk to you next week on another edition of Mid-Ohio Valley Now.